Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Caro. I love to read, and what I do in this space is to share with you book reviews, book recommendation, and also some opinions here and there about different books that I have read or that I want to read. And the main topic here is usually inclusion and diversity. However, I try to make a good balance between authors and topics. But today it's very special. We're gonna talk about books to understand how to be a good ally for the LGBT community, or books to understand the conditions of LGBT people all around the world. Because it's June, it's Pride Month, there's a lot to work on, but there's also a lot to celebrate and a lot of internal work to do as well. So I think this is a good moment to share books that will help you to understand your privilege, even if you're in the LGBT community, to understand the situation of other people as well, and also to get more sensitive about what can we do to make a more welcoming space wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you are in the US, if you are in Mexico, if you're in Latin, we all can do something to be more inclusive and to guarantee opportunities for this population. So let's start, but before that I would like to remind you, if you like my videos, if you like my content, please don't forget to like the video, but also to subscribe, because in that way you help me get to more people and to keep creating content. And okay, let's start now. The first book is for people who likes to learn but more into novels or fiction stories. That's perfect, and I have actually two books to recommend. The first one is this Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. She is a writer from the UK, and this book won the Booker Prize 2019, almost 2 years ago, and it's just an amazing book. It was my favorite book from last year. I think I have mentioned it in I don't know how many videos, but it's just really great for different topics, not only for LGBT, but like to talk about intersectional feminist in general, feminism, sorry. And for those who doesn't know what intersectional feminism is, I would make a whole video, and I will, a whole video about what is intersectional feminism. But what you need to know when I say intersectional feminism is just to be mindful to the fact that even though all women face oppression against men, there's also different points and variables that influence your position as a woman in the world. So it's not the same to be a white woman living in Manhattan that being a woman, Afro-American woman living in the south of the US, and that is not even close to be a transsexual woman living in Latin America, for example. So those are examples of intersectionality. There's a lot of variables. It's not just white and black. There's a lot of different tones when it comes to privilege, and that's what this book is also made to make us think about. And I'm recommending it also for Pride Month, because these are different stories about women, Afro-descendant women in the UK, and they are all from different moments in history and different backgrounds, but they are all connected in a brilliant way. Bernardine Evaristo is just really mindful and creative on the way to put these stories together. And in these stories there are also monologues from women from LGBT community. There's lesbian women, transsexual women, and also non-binary people as like writing essays is here as well. So it's a really good book to get the first approach to these topics of intersectionality, feminism and LGBT community, feminism, LGBT community, and social class, for example, is really good. Even though you might think it's a little bit heavy, it's really easy to read, and I highly recommend it. So this is a good way to start. And I also want to recommend you a novel, even though it hasn't been translated yet, and I really want it to be translated because it's a masterpiece. Is this one here. It's called Las Malas. It's written by Camila Sosa Villada, and I'm gonna tell you what is this about anyway, because I really want you to be interested. For the moment this book is translated into English, you can read it. But Camila Sosa Villada is a transsexual Argentinian woman, and as growing as a teenager, as a transsexual woman, in the years she was growing up, and still today I don't think there's a lot of change, but she had to face a lot of violence, and I don't think that's a secret. Transsexual women, men keep facing a lot of violence, and in between those, transsexual women are even more oppressed for different reasons, because of the misogyny, because of the even the yeah, LGBT community sometimes doesn't accept them as well. It's a very complex topic. But what happens here in this book is las malas means something like the bad ones, but in female, like referring to women. And it talks about a group of transsexual women in Argentina in the 70s, 80s, very early years, for not early years, but it's been a while, in 2021. And things haven't changed, huh? But the fact here is that once the transsexual women assume themselves as women, they start facing a lot of discrimination, not to say there's a whole system configured to not give them opportunities for anything, not even the basic needs, which is food and a ceiling over your head. So there are not so many options. Transsexual women, especially in Latin America, maybe in the cities there's a little bit more chance, but in general it's not. There are not a lot of opportunities, not even to gain money. So if you want to eat that day, you have to work. And since there's no work, no jobs for you, because everybody, like, it's super transphobic, then the only option you have is to become a prostitute. And that's what these women did. And it's a little bit mix of autobiography with fiction. It's a weird, very brilliant mix in that sense, because Camila Sosa Villada, the author, said also, this is autobiographic, this is fiction, and even though it's so raw and so cruel, is not even close to the violence we as transsexual women face. And she was saying how privileged and how important, even by like, she is a transsexual woman in Latin America, non-white, so that's already a lot of oppression. And she was recognizing that she, by being a writer, but being able to make money from something that is not prostitution, she was already privileged, and she wanted to give a voice to those women who can't. So in that sense, it's brilliant, and it's a great book. That's why it's in the list. It's a great book to make us a bit more sensible about this topic, about all the obstacles transsexual women face, and how to be more mindful when we vote, but also when we refer to them, and also when we see them. And if you want to go a little bit further, how do you help them from the basic needs that they haven't covered? Please, if you can identify a refugee for transsexual women and men, if it's under your possibility, please donate, because they don't even have access to basic things like hygiene articles, not even food. It's a very rough life, and that has to change. It's 2021, so you can start reading this to understand more the reality they live, which is, I can tell you, very different. If you're watching this and you have a computer and you have internet, your reality is already super different from the reality these women face. So let's become more sensible, and that's why this is a great book to understand within the LGBT community the reality of transsexual women and men. So this is also a good book. Now I have this book. If you are a person who likes to learn by listening others people's experiences, that's totally fine. There's also books for you. And what I would like to recommend this time is We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. I'm sorry, I'm not an English native speaker, and then I'm making a very conscious effort to start using inclusive language. And Samra Habib is a person who identifies themselves as a non-binary person, so I know there's a specific language for it. So it's double mental work for me. I'm trying to do it right. Please excuse me if in the video there's some times that I make a mistake, but they are a person who is non-binary. It was not always like that. They came to the to Canada as an immigrant from Iraq, which is already a whole layer of oppression and discrimination. Being Muslim in America in general, and when I say America, I don't mean the US, I mean the whole continent, America continent. Being Muslim, I think in any part of the world, is so difficult right now because of all the Islamophobia that we have always had, but it has become even stronger after the 9/11. So imagine the reality she has to face as a little girl. Back then they didn't identify themselves as non-binary. As a girl coming from a war, a conflict zone, a religious persecution on Iraq, coming to Canada and seeing a whole different world in which you couldn't fit because you were not white and you were actually like Muslim. So that was already a layer of oppression. On top of that, they were not, like, they were giving the basic cover of their needs. Like, they had a very small apartment, but they were somewhere to live. They have some problem getting food here and there. They were living in poverty, so that's another layer of exclusion. And then as they grew up, they realized they were not a person who identified themselves as a woman of a man. And that's very interesting to see, and that's actually the reason why I read the book and why I want to recommend it to you. Of course, because it's about a non-binary person, which I think there's a lot of awareness work to do so. Proves myself trying to be more familiar and more active using this language. But also, I think when you think about Muslim community, Muslim people, you don't associate Muslim or the religion with Islam with being a part of the LGBT community. Like, my brain shortcut, my bias was to assume that Muslim people is cisgender and Muslim people is heterosexual. That's it. So very naive for me, but that's why I love to read, and that's why these books will open our minds, and that's why I'm recommending it to you now that it's Pride Month. It's a really good exercise to understand how many realities and combinations are in the world, and that the experience we have in the world is probably just a minimum piece of the whole amount of combinations that there are out there. So in that sense, it's really good. She tells her experience as becoming a not binary person within a community that is already excluded. So Muslim community is already discriminated, and then within that community, queer people is not fully accepted, of course, because of religion's prejudices, but also because it doesn't match your stereotypes. So it's very interesting to see. It's really good that it's a biography, because then you can hear it in first person by the person who has experienced all this violence and discrimination. So really good book. Now we have covered non-binary people, lesbian people, gay people, a lot transsexual people, of course. So I think we're doing good with our mix. I hope you think so too. And let's go to the last book. Okay, so the last book is this one here. I think the name in English is Undo Gender. The original text is actually in English. It's written by Judith Butler, who is a American writer. However, and I must warn you, this is a book to learn about LGBT needs, context, and needs as well, but in a very theoretical manner. Like, this is academic text. It's very heavy to read, but if you are one of those persons who really like to understand the theory, like me, this is a great book. That's why I read it in Spanish. I already told you English is not, as you can hear, it's not my native language, so it's already hard to read in Spanish to read it in English as well. That's why I got it like this. But it's a really interesting book to understand from a philosophic perspective, also economic, also a socio-cultural perspective, but moreover philosophical perspective, how this LGBT community fits into the whole system we're living as a society. What do I want to say? I might be speaking very weirdly now, and I hope you will still bear with me and understand what I want to say. But the essence of the book and the main question Judith Butler puts across all chapters in this book is, what is a life that is worth living? What is a life that is worth living has? What does it need? And definitely one of those needs to have a worth living life is connection, human connection. I think all people as human want recognition, wants to be loved, wants to be part of something. That's just the nature, that's how we're built, and that's no exception with the LGBT community. So in that sense, understanding that premise already gives you a full ground to start working on, because in that sense, nobody, what your gender expression is, what your sexual preference is, what your sexual identity is, no matter that, we all deserve that life that is worth living. And clearly right now, 2021, that is not happening for a lot of people, including the LGBT community, and that's what she explores in this book here. It's a series of essays about different topics that go from very philosophical deep stuff as why do we think a female, like a body, a physical body with female expressions, as in a vagina, or the capability to a womb to bear a new life, it's already like a body and it's assigned immediately a gender. And then why a male body, like the physical body with a penis, why does it has to be assigned male gender? But also she starts questioning, why does feminine is, what does masculine is, like who built those, how do you know what you think is masculine is actually masculine, like who said that, who set up those categories. That's why I mean it's a very philosophical book. I'm sure you're already starting to do like, huh, what? But it's really a deep rooted, deep philosophical exercise that we must do at some point to understand where we configure societies as it is. She is one of the first people to start talking about the queer theory, which is this, what I just told you. Is gender real? Who created gender? Can we make gender more fluid? And by that I mean that you can navigate between female or feminine characteristics and masculine characteristics and not fit exactly in the two boxes. Like, just think about it like this, and I'm gonna make a video specifically about this, but right now in our world, in our society, there are two boxes: woman, man. If you're in this box, you have to be feminine, and you're in this box, you have to be masculine, and that's it. And what she proposes and what the queer theory proposes is just to navigate between those two without having to label things. And then apart from that philosophical approach, she also talks about more economical, political, society issues, which is, for example, how do you operate the gender transition surgeries for transsexual people from a legal perspective, from an economic perspective, also political perspective. It's very deep. It's really learning. It's like going to school, basically. She's just such a brilliant woman, has spent so many years of her life thinking about these topics and thinking what is the ideal situation, where are we now, and how to navigate to that. So it's just mind-blowing, and I love these books that really blow your mind. So if you like theory and you are willing to invest energy and time on this is definitely a book you have to read for this Pride Month. So those are the books that I wanted to recommend to you. Please let me know if you like them. I'm gonna leave all the data in the box, and if you have other books you would like to recommend, please put it on the comments or follow me on Instagram. My account name is very difficult for non-Spanish speaking people. It's Que lees Caro, which means what are you reading, Caro? So don't worry, I'm gonna put it on the box so you can follow me easier. And let's see each other in the next video. Thanks for watching.